Hello and welcome to today's grand incident. While mainline Touhou games are mainly known as shoot-'em-ups, Touhou fan games are not limited to this style. The shmup genre is still one of the most used for them, but they expand to many different genres. It wouldn't be surprising if you could find exactly the type of game you're looking for in the form of a Touhou fan game. Fan games do an excellent job incorporating elements from the source material that stay true to the characters used in them in the form of their abilities and personalities, and maintain levels of difficulty that you would expect given Touhou's main genre. Since there are so many different games to choose from, you're probably wondering how I even decided on the first one I wanted to talk about. For that, I simply went with one of my absolute favorites that I've ever played, that game being Koumajou Densetsu, Scarlet Symphony, or as I come to know it, Touhouvania. The game was developed and published at the 2009 Summer Comiket by the group Frontier Aja as their first ever release. As I'm sure you've guessed by the nickname, it's a traditional Castlevania style type of game starring Touhou's Shrine Maiden protagonist, Hakure Reimu, as the main character. Gameplay is straightforward, 8 stages with a boss at the end. Losing a life will reset you to the start of the room you're in, and a game over puts you back at the beginning of the stage you're on. The story begins with Reimu as she sets out to find the reason behind the scarlet mist covering the skies of Gensokyo, heading to the manor, well in this game castle, of the culprit behind a previous mist-related incident, as she suspects they're behind this one as well. Reimu uses her purification rod to attack similarly to a Belmont's whip, and holding up allows you to use your sub-weapon, a quick but weak amulet projectile. Your ammunition for them is displayed beneath your health bar and is known as souls. Souls are the equivalent to hearts and drop from enemies and objects when you break them, more on that later. Unlike Castlevania of old, you're able to move super freely, no committal jumps or ridiculous pushback from getting hit. Reimu also has the ability to do a slide kick by holding down and pressing the jump button, and backflipping by holding back and jumping out of your slide. Do keep in mind, however, that her slide is used strictly for dodging and doesn't actually do any damage. Now the most important mechanic in the game. Reimu can fly, for free. There's no cost to doing this at all. All you have to do is hit jump while airborne and you're flying. You can press the jump button again to land. Normally games will incorporate some sort of resource like a stamina bar or sub-weapon ammo to restrict mobility from being game-breaking, but this game handles it very strangely. Instead of depleting a gauge or costing an item, the game places red orb enemies in locations you'd only be able to reach by flying. The orb does a lot of damage and doesn't drop any souls when defeated, so it's never worth the hassle. An odd choice to deal with abusing the mechanic, but whatever works. Aside from the red ball of doom, there are a few things that are good to know about flying. The first is that while flying, Reimu's hurt box will shrink down to the center of her chest, meaning your head and feet are invulnerable. As there is no visual indication of the shift, you'll have to get a feel for where it is yourself through dodging while airborne. Second, you can't attack with your whip. The attack button will default to your amulets, but if you cancel your flight, you can whip on the way down. Third, if you're hit at any point while flying, you can't fly again until landing, so be careful hovering over pits. Lastly, if you only get hit out of your jump, you can break your fall by flying, which is perfect if you jump into something that was off screen and then smacked you into the abyss. That's a lot to take in right out of the gate, so thankfully the game has great pacing, allowing you to slowly get the hang of every aspect as you go. Take the first level for example, grassy hills with some flying enemies and pits. Great practice for jump whipping and basic flight. Aside from that, there isn't much to the stage itself. Getting to the end of the stage, Reimu encounters Chirno, an ice fairy who insists on getting in the way. Reimu tries to convince her to join the party when the magician Kirisami Marisa, Touhou's second protagonist, arrives to assist Reimu with the mission. Except all she manages to do is provoke Chirno into attacking for real. Alright, first boss and a new mechanic right away. Marisa gives you access to a partner ability, which is basically another sub-weapon just tied to a different button, and requires 10 souls per attack. Marisa's attack will shoot out 2 big stars above and below that explode if an enemy touches it or enough time passes. It's good for hitting spots Reimu herself can't reach, but the damage isn't amazing, so it's best used for stages rather than bosses. As for the fight itself, it is only the first boss. Chirno fires sets of bunched icicles towards you when you get into her line of sight. These only go straight. Shortly after, she'll begin charging an attack, which shoots a circle of yellow bullets out around herself that then freeze, and after a few seconds, will fly towards wherever Reimu is. I'll be referring to these charge attacks as spell cards for simplicity's sake. Marisa will let you hit her from the ground, but you can get some hits yourself with good jumps. For the spell card, you have a lot of room to maneuver, and the bullets aren't that fast, so dodging them won't be too much hassle. Chirno leaves herself wide open while charging, which makes it the best moment to attack. Just don't get greedy or you'll get hit by the oncoming bullets. Once the spell card is cast, the attack cycle will loop back to the icicles. The attack patterns don't change, but the boss's position does, so keep an eye on where she is. This applies to every boss in the game, so make sure to maintain a good amount of room between you and them to avoid undodgeable scenarios. After a couple cycles, Chirno will go down and Reimu will tell her to come with them. Chirno refuses until she's convinced that she had initially promised to do so if she had lost, and joins you as the second partner ability. Okay, on to stage 2. This stage is incredibly short with only 3 rooms before the boss, and consists of birds, frogs, and fishmen as enemies. It's a chance to try out Chirno's attack, as you start with 50 souls each stage, but that's only good for 5 uses. As I mentioned earlier, souls are obtained by defeating enemies or breaking objects, such as candles and pots. Green and red pots can have a clutter of big souls, which are worth 5 souls each. Stronger enemies drop these souls as well. Pots don't only drop souls though. Some will contain healing items, and even fewer will have a 1-up inside. Green pots have Dongo, healing 25%, red pots have rice balls, healing 50%, and yellow pots have meat, which fully heals. Pot meat is better than wall meat, good to know. The last pot is the silver pot, which holds the 1-up. There exists a single 1-up in every stage, and while it's not limited to hiding in the silver pot, it is worth knowing that you'll only find said pot with the 1-up inside. Playing through the game again, I realized how many 1-ups I'd missed, and I couldn't find any documentation on where they're hidden, so I decided to find and show where each one is. Stage 1's is inside the Jizo statue, right next to the boss room. All you have to do is hit it 30 times to make it appear. Stage 2's is unlikely to be found on a first playthrough. When you enter the boss room, you'll want to fly up and to the right and you'll find a balcony with the silver pot. Break it to get the 1-up. The reason I say it's unlikely is because during the boss fight, that balcony is reachable, but it contains a red pot full of souls, and you really wouldn't know that pot exists at all unless you've done the fight before. Once you grab the 1-up, you can hop down and meet your opponent. At the entrance of the castle is the gatekeeper, the yokai known as Hong Meiling, complaining that you kept her waiting. Reimu and Marissa don't remember who she is, much to Meiling's dismay, and getting annoyed with the hold-up, begin the fight. Now's the time to explain what exactly Chirno does. Using her ability will shoot out a small ball of ice that will expand after a set distance, damaging everything within it until it disappears. Bosses tend not to move while doing an attack, so it's very effective on them. You can start just about every fight with Chirno, since each boss has some invincibility while they're getting into their starting position, and the ice ball itself won't do any damage until it expands. I highly recommend getting used to how it works, as it will speed up a lot of fights. But enough about the ice fairy, back to the gatekeeper. Meiling will shoot a pattern of X-shaped, plus-shaped, then X-shaped bullets at you. After the third, she summons 2 fairies, above and below, that will fly forward and shoot their own set of bullets before flying off. While the fairies are shooting, Meiling will do a flying kick in your direction, leaving behind a trail of bullets that will start to fly in reverse back towards her. Once the bullets pass her, she'll begin charging her spell card, shooting out a colorful circle of bullets. Keeping distance from the X pattern will let you attack safely and fly above the plus pattern. If Meiling doesn't go too low, crouching the plus pattern will completely avoid it as well. Focus on the fairy that spawns below and keep close to Meiling, so when she starts her kick, you can slide towards her to avoid the entire attack. You can also fly over it, which is way more consistent. The spell card can be avoided with a single jump due to the gap it leaves. Rinse and repeat until Meiling admits defeat, after which she'll no longer deny you entry into the castle. Stage 3 begins similarly to many Castlevania titles, a long corridor with zombies continuously spawning. Once through that, the level opens up to what it truly is. Long corridors and stairwells. Most of the stairs are background pieces, making the method of moving here platforming or just flying. At the end of the first stairwell in the top right, there's a small platform you can't stand on. Hit it to find the 1-up. Stage 3 introduces the main enemies you'll be dealing with from this point on, fairies and skeletons. Fairies come in a few types. Regular fairies shoot bullets, gun and run fairies fly in, shoot, then fly off, axe fairies throw axes, and sword fairies thrust forward. There is another type, the lance fairy, that shows up later. They act the same as the sword fairy, but can also thrust upwards. Skeletons are much simpler. Regular ones just throw bones, and warriors attack with a sword. Later skeletons are just variants of the warrior with more strength, speed, and HP. There's not much to note about the stage aside from the enemies, so let's jump to the boss. Getting further in will have you run into the head maid of the castle, Izayoi Sakuya. Sakuya questions why Reimu is here, when Marissa accuses her of being responsible for the mist. Sakuya feigns ignorance about the matter, and tells the girls to leave since they weren't invited, threatening use of force if they don't comply. Sakuya starts the fight by flying upwards, then firing knives in front of her. Next, she fires off knives that bounce off the floor and ceiling diagonally in front of her. Sakuya will then teleport a short distance in the direction she's facing, leaving behind a trail of knives that shoot out away from her. The spell card charge will begin when the knives start moving, and the move she unleashes is a spiral of knives. None of Sakuya's attacks except the spell card hit behind her, so the best position to be in is there. Knowing how her teleport works will let you set up a preemptive cheer node to cover where she'll reappear. The main issue with the spell card is if you're in a bad position at the end of the teleport, it'll add those knives onto the spell card. Sakuya also begins her attack pattern again during all this, so jumping to avoid them can get you sniped by her. It's easy to end up in a bad spot in this fight, so focusing on getting a better position is an option. Once defeated, Sakuya will reluctantly stand aside and let you go with a warning that continuing deeper into the castle will be dangerous. Stage 4 has some similarities to the previous stage, in that it's some corridors and more stairless stairwells, only this time you're descending them. Traversing it is the same as last time, platforming or flying. You'll meet the Lance Fairies here, as well as some new enemies, dolls that follow you, a teleporting sorcerer, and a flying head. The sorcerers and flying heads shoot homing shots, but the speed is low so they aren't as bad as they sound. The one up here is on the balcony behind the Axe Fairy. You can use the crumbling platform, or just fly up, to find the silver pot. Before getting to the boss, I wanted to take a moment to address a few things you may have noticed. Translation for this game was done by Frontier Aja themselves, so the English is a little choppy. It's nice that they even bothered to do an English script in the first place, so for that reason I'm fine with giving it a pass, even if it was only added later through patches. Another feature they added was multiple difficulties, ranging from easy to hard. Easy mode decreases the damage you take and increases what you deal, while hard mode is the opposite. Enemies hit real hard and you don't. For this playthrough I'm playing on hard. The strategies won't change for the bosses, only how many mistakes you're allowed to make and how many cycles you'll have to go through will. You can also change your starting lives from 1 to 20, and given that enemies on hard can kill in as little as 4 hits, and some bosses in 2, I'm going with 20. With all that explained, time for the boss. A sitting doll will catch Marissa's attention, causing her to worry. From there, Alice Margatroyd, a yokai magician, will make her presence known. Marissa demands to know why Alice is here, to which she replies saying she was invited. Marissa doesn't believe her and starts to insult her. A lot. Like completely uncalled for levels of rude, instigating a fight. First thing is that the doll on the seat will become active right away, so take it out before you begin. Alice will open by summoning a doll above and below her that will shoot at you. Alice will then fire a small stream of similar bullets herself. Next she'll summon 6 dolls around her that act similarly to the 2 before. Her spell card summons 6 stronger dolls that shoot 2 streams of vertical and horizontal bullets. Alice's main strengths come from the dolls she creates, and your partner abilities are very well suited to clearing them. Marissa probably works better, but at this point I'm so used to Cheerno that I went with her. As far as strategy goes, be mindful of the red dolls as they don't go down in one hit, and jump over the other dolls that you miss taking out since their shots are aimed at you. Other than that, just don't pin yourself against a wall and you should be able to take Alice down faster than Sakuya. Stage 5 is another Castlevania classic, an arena located in the middle of the castle. Even the characters comment on how strange it is. For the actual stage, I actually don't like it very much. The main rooms you'll be going through are, you guessed it, stairways and corridors. Only this time the stairs are completely solid. You're descending them as well, so hitting enemies with the whip is a pain, and it's always better to use Marissa to hit things lower than you, or just fly around every enemy, and that right there is not very arena at all. For the corridors, the ceiling is so short that you hardly get any room to actually fight the enemy in front of you. Maybe I'm just overly upset because the stage layout isn't what I think of when I see an arena, but I digress. Back to the stage. New enemies include the Flying Skull, Werewolves, and Minotaurs. Flying Skull flies into you, Werewolves attack with claw swipes and flying headbutts, and Minotaurs jump at you and swing. I don't want to go into detail on how to fight every enemy, but the Minotaur is a pain in the corridors if you don't know how to handle it. To do so, just slide under it when it jumps. It's as simple as that. For the 1-up, in the upper portion at the end of the hall with the Lance Fairies, there's a stack of 3 boxes, with the top box being a slightly lighter color. Bust the box to reveal it. Contrary to the stage's cramped feeling, the boss arena is massive. Waiting here is the Oni, Ibuki Suika. Why is she here? You don't really need an explanation. Well, actually, she just got bored and happened to come here. Having a little too much to drink, she challenges Rainbow to a fight. Suika starts the fight with a ring of red bullets that will explode after a short time. Next, she'll toss her ball and chain at you that will shoot a spiral of bullets, followed by another ball and chain that fires a full circle of bullets outwards. Her spell card has her grow giant and chase you, shooting an orange ring of bullets twice that breaks into smaller bullets until they finally explode. All of Suika's shots have limited range, so as long as you're far enough away you won't be hit. I'll be honest, I'm not terribly sure how to deal with her ball and chain attacks head on, so I just try to avoid it entirely. The biggest issue in this fight is her spell card. When Suika is big, she becomes invincible. The only way to reliably avoid her attack is to bring her up to the top of the arena to give yourself room below. The problem is as soon as she fires off her second ring, the attack pattern resets, so she'll begin her offense way above you, and by the time she gets back down to ground level, she's preparing the spell card again. I wouldn't call the fight hard, but I found it to be incredibly slow. If there's a fast and consistent way to win this, then I would love to know. After a drawn-out battle, Suika surrenders and lets Reimu's group move on, under the condition that once they resolve the incident that they would come back to get her for a party. Stage 6 is a giant library that captures the excitement of being in a real library. Okay, that's a bit harsh, but let me explain what I mean. The stage mostly consists of climbing to the top of the room, walking to the other side of the room, then going down to the bottom of the room. In between these rooms are hallway portions that have enemies below them that attack you. Marissa is the only way you can hit them, but one of the enemies you'll find placed like this is too far for her to hit with the star, so instead you have to wait for it to detonate itself or attempt to break through whatever's in front of you. The enemy in question is new, a book that shoots waves of bullets out, and they are very annoying. Fleamen also appear here, but they aren't much of anything themselves. To get the 1-up, break the nightstand in between 2 bookcases near the end of the level. I really don't have much positive to say about this stage, so I'm just going to move on to the boss. At the end of the library, the witch Patchouli Knowledge will appear to stop you from going any further. Her reason is simple enough. It's because you're going the right way. She gets right to the point, so let's get right to the fight. Patchouli opens by calling forth a triangle of books, the exact ones you dealt with during the stage, but more HP, then fires a wave of fireballs towards you. Next is an upside-down triangle of books, and she'll shoot 3 homing bullets with it. Her spell card will create 5 magic symbols in the shape of a pentagon that fire a wave of matching color bullets. Patchouli doesn't move much, so Chirno is at her best here. She can hit the books too to reduce some of the stress. The book's shots are consistent while Patchouli aims at you. Her shots do twice as much as the books, so if you're having difficulty dodging, it's not a bad idea to take the damage from the weaker attack to invuln through the stronger ones. The spell card is something else. I have no idea how to deal with it legitimately, but I found some cheese. Hugging the roof of the entryway will let you avoid 4 of the 5 waves. The yellow wave has to be adjusted for by slightly moving down. One last thing I want to mention here, since I find Patchouli the one it's most likely to happen on, is that when you land the last hit on the boss, any bullet on the screen will continue to move, meaning you can still lose even after you've won. Once the screen is clear, Patchouli will stand down and you're free to continue. We're in the final stretch now with Stage 7, and what would you expect out of the stage before the last boss? Yep, that's right, it's a clock tower. This stage is mostly vertical platforming, using moving gears as platforms and avoiding different types of spikes. The layout of these portions look like you could do them without needing to fly at all, but I haven't tried it myself. The area that makes me question it are the ones with insta-kill spikes placed uncomfortably close to your head. The spinning spike traps don't immediately end you, they only do a chunk of damage. There's also a few collapsed bridges to platform across. These rooms count as outside, so try not to incur the wrath of the red orb up above. This 1-up is a bit silly, and I found it by complete accident. Immediately after the first outside area, you'll enter a tower with a pit of spikes in the middle of the floor and 2 rotating spikes above it. Hitting the upper spike will bust it, and the 1-up will fall, but if you aren't quick, it'll fall into the spike pit, making it unobtainable. I only ever found this because I messed up a short hop trying to stop the fairy's axe. Fortunate for me, as I could have been here for hours with how long this stage is. After another ruined bridge, you'll reach the top of the clock tower, with none other than Sakuya again, waiting for you. She's annoyed you didn't leave and continues to pretend not to know anything when asked about the incident. Then she jumps right to the violence. Sakuya's attacks function similarly to her previous fight, just an extra layer within them, except the spell card. She opens with the knives forward, but also throws a few diagonally as well, followed by just diagonal knives in your direction. She throws a spinning knife in front of her before teleporting, and this time she teleports twice, while leaving the trail of knives in the path she traveled. The spell card now summons a circle of blades all aimed at you. While these blades are leaving the room, Sakuya will restart her attacks. Similar strategy can be used here with staying close to her back to avoid her starting moves. I can't tell what influences her direction on the second teleport. The preferred pattern is forward then back, which will put her about the same distance as she was when she initiated the attack, just at a different height. For the spell card, an opening is left at the top for you to fly through to avoid the main attack, but from here you'll have to dodge the blades that originally appeared below you. You can stay high and weave, or if you're an absolute mad lad, free fall through them to get back into the fight. Last thing to mention here is to stay grounded until the attack appears, or you'll end up causing your opening to shrink or not be there. It was far from perfect in my demonstration, but I won, so I did enough right. Even after defeat, Sakuya still refuses to speak until Patchouli appears and guesses that the reason why is because Sakuya herself doesn't know anything. Sakuya explains that she built the castle at her mistress's order, and Patchouli mentions that prior to the order, the mistress had borrowed a book from the library. With no solid answer, the whole group heads towards the mistress in question's room to find out the reason for the mist and the castle. The final stage isn't really a stage, more so a checkpoint for the upcoming boss fight. It's the staircase, or in this case slope, that leads up to the throne room for the final fight. The one-up is simple. Go up the staircase into the attic, and on the left side is the last silver pot. Head to the main room after to finally meet the cause of this whole event. The group confronts the mistress of the castle, the vampire Remilia Scarlet, and asks her why she had this castle built. After some build-up, Remilia states that her objective is to find buried treasure. Seems that the book she found was about buried treasure, and read a particular story about the treasure hidden below the Red Castle. The reason for the mist? Vampires don't like sunlight, so it was so she would be able to excavate during the daytime. To summarize, Remilia thought that building a castle would result in treasure being buried beneath it. Reimu then informs her that the Red Castle in the story is actually referring to Mount Akagi, which is known as the Red Castle Mountain, and that the treasure likely doesn't exist. I looked this up, and it's an actual legend about undiscovered treasure buried somewhere on the mountain, so that's pretty cool. Back on topic. After an incredibly unsatisfying reason, Reimu and Marissa decide to call it quits and leave the cleanup to a very disappointed Sakuya. In an attempt to save face, Remilia declares that the treasure plan was but a ruse, and challenges the pair to a fight. Final boss time. Remilia will fire a wall of big slow orbs in your direction that will be followed by a screen of smaller and faster bullets. Next she fires lasers in a hexagonal shape with her in the center. She'll repeat her first attack again here, and afterwards will fire 5 cluttered shots directly at you that will scatter the further they go. When that's over, Remilia will shoot a slightly rotating ring of bullets that leave behind faded shots, and from the center will fire off smaller bullets that follow a similar launch angle that will clear the faded bullets. Now the spell card. Remilia will throw her spear forward that leaves behind a trail of bullets and creates a ton of lasers in the direction she threw it. After a pause, she'll throw it again slightly upwards, then downwards, which act the same as the first spear she threw. The opening attack is ridiculous to dodge if you don't get behind it. Same applies to the third. Lasers hurt a lot, and on hard mode you die from 2 of them. Best spot to stand is in front and below them. The aim shots are dealt with by flying around to the other side of the room, or flying back, upwards, then forward slightly. This lets you drop down if you don't have enough room to go over her. I don't feel like I explained well what is happening in the 5th attack, but it's not as scary as it looks. The angle is set, and you'll always have a safe spot below and in front of her. Once the center group of bullets start flying out, jump forward through the gap they leave. Just be careful you don't put yourself against a wall like I did. The spell card is similar to the first attack, but with lasers instead of bullets. You can go behind Remilia to avoid all the attack. She can turn around to throw her spear though, so it's probably best you just wait this one out unless you're used to how it works. I shouldn't have to tell you that the spear itself doesn't tickle. Keep up the pressure until she goes down and you're finished. Well, not actually. Remilia will order her servants, Mei-Ling and Sakuya, alongside Patchouli, to attack you. That's right, 3 more bosses. They use slightly enhanced versions of their attacks from the previous fights, but with much less health. For that reason, I'm just going to get into how to beat them. First is Mei-Ling. I found that keeping Cherno on her and constantly attacking with short hop attacks will let you beat her before she can get to her second attack. Just watch out for the fairy she'll spawn. Patchouli has more annoying books, but here you can drain her health before her spell card. Throw your Cherno, get your attacks in, and jump over to avoid the fireballs. I'm gonna be honest here with Sakuya. I have no idea how her spell card works. I just face tanked most of it until she went down. I should mention that each boss has the same layout, with a pot full of orbs on the right and one with Dongo on the left. After the boss rush, Remilia will return and change the arena to fit the true final boss feel. Only some of her attacks change, so I'll get right into those. She starts the fight by turning into bats and appears on the ground facing you, and will fire the same attacks she used in her previous fight. Now more lasers. Remilia will shoot lasers in the shape of a cross, then shoot 4 lasers in between each section. She does it again, but this time the starting lasers are on a diagonal, but the 4 lasers will still be between them. The next 2 attacks are just like they were before, so those can be handled the same way. Finally, the spell card. Remilia will back up to the wall and throw her spear forward, creating a web of lasers that you have to find a safe spot between. This fight is hard. Remilia has a lot of health, and on hard mode it takes even longer. Coupled with the fact that 2 lasers will force a restart, you can imagine this one took some practice. All of Remilia's attacks make sense, but she definitely punishes you for going for greedy hits. You absolutely need to know how your hurt box works while flying here, since the lasers will more than likely hit you if you try to remain grounded. Game over in here also means you have to do that whole boss gauntlet again, so try not to die. After a lot of attempts, I managed to win this fight without getting hit at all, using Cherno at almost every opportunity I could to beat her right when the third set of attacks began. I'm pretty proud of that. even if hard mode almost requires that level of execution to win it all. Reimu and friends are victorious, but that conversation is cut short when Suika shows up after the fight, accusing everyone of forgetting about her. Reimu assures her that's not the case, and they all head to Reimu's place for a party. At the party, Remilia is made to promise to not release any more mist, and in exchange, Reimu and Marissa promise to come over and play every now and again. Yes, it really ends like that. Or at least it would, if the game had any mercy. This time a Touhou classic, once you finish the main game, you gain access to the extra stage. These stages are fairly difficult, and feature a boss with many different spell cards you'll have to face. How does this translate to this game? Prepare to find out. The story here is sometime after the party, Reimu and friends return to the castle, as Remilia was supposed to get rid of it, but it still stands. The extra stage is a mashup of different stage themes, stages 1, 2, 3, and 6 respectively. The layout is a room or two of the strongest enemies in the game, most of which are exclusive to this stage, followed by a boss. The stage portions are very punishing if you try to rush forward, as the enemies are grouped together and hit really hard. Your best bet for dealing with everything is approaching slowly and getting the attention of a few at a time. Sure, it's slow, but you'll make a lot of souls this way, and you can never have enough cheer now. First segment is birds, small frogs, and plant zombies. The downward hills make it a pain to attack, and the red orb looms above, so watch your flight. After that is the area where you ran into Chirno, only this time someone else is there. It's Rumia, a yokai of darkness, who doesn't have any dialogue, she just attacks as soon as you get near her. Rumia will fire 4 lines of bullets in front of her, the first going straight while the other 3 angle upwards and downwards. Once those are done, she'll create a ring of bullets around her and fire them off. She does this twice, but she'll send out a wave before the first ring actually fires off. The spell card shoots out a sweeping motion of bullets in all directions. Rumia's first attack is just as exploitable as Sakuya's. Get behind her and you're safe. The benefit of it being a longer attack is a better position early, meaning more damage. The rings are rough because there's more space to dodge them the further you get, but you also lose sight of the attack until it's in your face. Best bet is to fly slightly off the ground and react properly to avoid them. Her spell card has a unique way of shooting, but the pattern is consistent. All you have to do is find a gap and wait it out. Just be sure to move quickly after to avoid Rumia's first attack again. Interestingly, while Rumia doesn't have anything to say at all, she does have finished art for the game. Maybe it was planned to give her dialogue, or even have a bigger role, but got benched. Poor girl. Well, with Rumia out of the way, you can move on. Next portion is the bridge before the gate. Enemies here are flying skulls, sorcerers, and beefed up fishmen. These guys are super bunched up, and dealing with more than one at a time is a huge pain. Get to the gate to run into Mailing again. I'm sure you could have guessed which bosses were going to show up based on the stage themes, so I'll get to the point. The coming bosses are Mailing, Sakuya, and Patchouli, all of which are similar to their final stage fights, just with the standard amount of HP and their original arenas. I'm not going to go fully into their movesets for this reason, but I'll still explain what I did to beat them. The story for all these encounters boils down to telling Reimu that they can't dismantle the castle right now and ask her to go home, so I'm going to skip over those too. You can do a similar strategy with the short hops on her first attack, but her movement is a bit different, so I couldn't replicate it exactly as last time. I also couldn't slide past her to dodge the bullets she sends out with the flying kick, so I recommend you just fly high and dodge. The spell card is still easy and can be done similarly to Rumia's, just find the gap and wait it out. Enter the castle to be greeted to super minotaurs and homing bullet fairies. This room isn't as scary as it looks. The fairies leave after a single shot, and the minotaurs can't hit you at all if you fly above them. After that is a long corridor of skeletons and fairies. Play it safe by getting just close enough to lure in the skeleton, and move away to avoid the fairy firing at you. Next is Sakuya. Same deal as before, and the fight this time is in my opinion the easiest. Sakuya won't use her teleport in this fight, so you can get a lot of hits after the diagonal knives. Her spell card creates curved walls of knives aimed at you 3 times. This is avoided by sliding to the opposite side of the room and putting all of them behind you. Sakuya will always reappear in front of you too, so just chuck a Chirno and get out of the way of the opening attack. Now, a moment to relax. The room after Sakuya is full of pots with food and souls, as well as floating 1-ups. Only one of the 1-ups is real. You can tell by the smile. The others will blow up. Knock it down with your whip to grab it. There isn't really a reason not to hit all of them though, since they do drop some souls themselves. Just don't get hit by the boom. Immediately after, you'll run into Patchouli. It's worth saying at this point, Reimu figures out what's going on, but if you aren't familiar with Touhou, it won't really make sense, so I'll just wait to the end to explain. Patchouli is still a pain because of the books and fireballs, but the cheese to avoid the spell card works even better this time. You don't have to adjust for anything, just hug the top corner of the doorway. Now to make your way to the last area of the game, the castle basement. Head down the stairs, get past the last skeletons and fairies, and enter the final room. Meet the younger sister of Remilia, the vampire, Flandre Scarlet. Flandre is angry because she waited for Reimu to arrive after Remilia was defeated, but Reimu never came. To make matters worse, when everyone left for the party, no one remembered to tell Flandre about it. Reimu asks for forgiveness, but Flandre is not that merciful, and attacks to vent her frustrations. Now, if you thought the stage was difficult, prepare for a whole new world of pain. I'm going to explain all of Flandre's moves and strategies right away, so listen up. Flandre shoots a colorful spiral of bullets that expands then shrinks. Next is a loop of blue clutter that comes towards you. Slide under this. She does it again, so slide back under her. Now the fun part. Flandre disappears and makes bullets shoot from the floor, wall, and ceiling for about 8 seconds. The trick here is that the vertical shots are consistent, so you only have to dodge the ones coming off the walls. The problem with this one is how insanely difficult it is to recover if you're hit during it. And when you die from 4 of these on hard mode, it might as well be impossible. You need to know where it's safe. I prefer to stay close to the left hand of the giant shadow in the background. After the last set, Flandre will reappear, and you need to follow her towards whatever wall she backs up to, as she starts shooting a wide wave of bullets towards you. And the safest, if not the only safe spot, is flying above her. Once that's done, she'll float up a bit and release an expanding circle like her opening attack. Then summon 2 clones that both fire 3 sets of big blue bullets that are aimed at you, while the clones themselves are moving towards you. While all that is happening, Flandre is charging her spell card, which is a massive array of lasers that she'll fire twice at the same time the clones are pursuing you. Move very wide around the room to avoid the lasers and keep the clones far away. Once the second set of lasers clear, drop down and slide to the other side of the room as Flandre fires 2 more sets of lasers. Another loop of blue will shoot at you that you want to slide under. Then your opportunity to attack will arrive. You can hit her up to 3 times, then you have to do everything again starting from the 8-second sweep. This fight is torture and can go wrong so easily. The amount of time you have to dodge to get an opportunity to attack, not to mention the difficulty of dodging any of it to begin with, is evil. Keep in mind that if you game over here, you get to do the entire extra stage over again. I tried finding some way of getting some extra damage during all the dodging, but the best I could do was using Marissa when you're hanging out above Flandre, and that only works if you're facing her when you started flying. Other than that, trying to throw Chirno before attacking is all I have. You can get 1 extra whip in when you drop after the 4th laser, but I really wouldn't recommend trying that. I honestly wouldn't blame you for not bothering to do this boss yourself, as it's a ridiculous endurance test with almost no room for error at the end of an already difficult stage. But if you're adamant on completing the game in its entirety, then I wish you the best of luck. It was a slow and very stressful fight, but I actually managed to beat her without getting hit. I'm incredibly proud of myself for this, even if a perfect is pretty much required to win the fight at all. Flandre will calm down after the fight, and Reimu will take her to a party to make up for forgetting her in the first place. Congratulations, you did it. You have reached the true end of the game. Touhouvania is easily one of my favorite fan games I've ever played for so many reasons. The controls are super smooth, and the flying mechanic is fun to move around in. All the music in this game is incredible and makes replaying after a game over a lot more bearable. All the in-game sprites look fantastic, and the art style for the character portraits does an amazing job capturing that Castlevania aesthetic. The boss fights are challenging but fair. Well, most of them are anyway. But this game was designed with normal mode being the only difficulty, so it's my own fault for doing hard. I absolutely love how you can see the change in time as you progress through each stage. From the start being midday, to the arena with a sunset, and to the top of the clock tower under the Scarlet Moon. With all that being said, I do have some criticisms. Some of the level design is repetitive to a point where I actually thought I entered a looping corridor. The enemy choice was the same every section within the room that I thought I wasn't actually progressing. Speaking of the enemies, the variety could be better. Stages have some unique enemies, which are cool, but once you enter the castle, it's a lot of the same fairies and skeletons placed the same way as the previous rooms. The variety is good enough that I don't think you'd notice it that much on a first playthrough though. It's more an observation from multiple playthroughs than an actual issue. My main complaints with Touhouvania are all addressed and improved on in the sequel, so that's great. Yep, this game has a sequel that was released a year and a half after the original that improved on absolutely every aspect, but that's a story for another day. Frontier Aja would make 2 incredible fan games within 2 years' time, and come the year after they would release a premium pack with both games included. And after that? Nothing! Frontier Aja would cease to exist in any capacity after this. I'm serious, I can't find anything on them at all. The best I found were dead links to websites and their official website, which was last updated January 28th in 2012. I don't speak Japanese, but Google Translate suggests that the final post was about no plans to restock physical versions of their games, and expressing disappointment over price gouging of the existing copies. Why the circle disappeared is a mystery. I've heard reasons, but with no sources to them, who really knows? To put some good news on this though, the artist of the character portraits, Vampire Killer, is still active on Twitter under the same handle. I'll leave the link in the description below. When all is said and done, Touhouvania is an amazing fan game with way more positives than negatives, and I cannot recommend it enough to those who like Castlevania or Touhou. I know what you're thinking. Can I enjoy this game without knowing anything about Touhou? It's a fair question, and one I have been asked a few times in regards to fan games. Fan games can range from straightforward and simple to more complex with story being an important factor. How can you tell which is which? For that, I devised a little ranking system on how much Touhou knowledge I think you'll need to enjoy the fan game I'm talking about, using some characters to represent the amount. Chirno represents little to no knowledge, Aya represents an average amount of knowledge, and Aku represents an incredible amount of knowledge. These rankings are a way to express my opinion on the matter and then explain why I believe it to be the case. For Touhouvania, I definitely give it the rank of Chirno. A big thing here is that a majority of the characters in the game are from the same entry in the main Touhou series. When I was getting into Touhou myself, I found that going one game at a time and getting used to all the different characters that show up in them was the easiest way to learn who's who. Touhouvania's story is silly and can be completely ignored without detracting anything from gameplay. For anyone new to Touhou, it's not a bad introduction to some character relationships, assuming you can decipher the translation. With the exception of fairies, the only enemies from Touhou itself are the boss characters. Boss attacks are based on the character's techniques and abilities, but knowing that won't make them any easier to handle. Similar to what I said earlier, I find this to be a good introduction to individual character strengths and fighting styles. The only thing I can think of that would confuse someone new is why the 1-up is a goofy looking Reimu face. They're called Yukari, and they don't have anything to do with canon, so don't worry about it. I want to say once more that this is strictly my opinion. Would you agree or disagree? Let me know what you think. Touhouvania and its sequel stand out to me as some of the greatest examples as to what passionate fans are capable of for a series they enjoy. If you're this far in the video, then I don't think I need to reiterate why I like this game as much as I do, so I'll wrap it up here. I hope I was able to convince you to give them a try yourselves, especially if you're a fan of classic Castlevania. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you during the next incident.